Hello, everyone, and welcome to TTRPG Talk. I'm rjcurrer, and this is a new live stream that I'm going to be doing every week for the foreseeable future, where I just talk about whatever the TTRPG topic du jour is. Just sort of a quick little coffee break length episode where we can just kind of chit chat outside of the longer format, deeper dive that is Let's Write Adventure, the live stream that I do every Monday. So, this is our first episode of this, and I thought we would kick things off by starting with character backgrounds. Character backgrounds is something that kind of came up to me recently because I don't actually get to spend a lot of time as a player in TTRPGs. I am very often the game master. I am, in fact, most often the game master, a forever DM of a classic sort, if you will. Um, but recently, I've had the opportunity to play a few more games than I normally would. And that's been really exciting for me as I sort of crafted characters and built them out to adventure on my own, and then ran smack dab into a challenge that I hadn't really anticipated when I'd sat down to make characters, because I had thought about everything very kind of mechanically and how I was going to put this character together in terms of their stats and their abilities and how they were going to mesh well with the team, and was thinking up voices and mannerisms and all those little things for them. But I didn't really go into some of these characters with an idea of who they actually are and their backstories, and that made them a lot harder to role play. And I found that I was sort of stuck coming up with these backgrounds on the fly, or else risking playing characters that felt very bland and just frankly weren't a lot of fun. So I thought that I would chat with you all today about what I did and what I do to create character backstories to make them simple to play, or simple to make, and then simple to play and run. It's really a two-step process, and it's very, very simple. And it starts with a misbelief. So, a misbelief is something that we've talked about in other places on this channel, but a misbelief is a character quality that is representative of something that the character is wrong about. It is something that they hold to be fundamentally true about life, for which they are incorrect. Um, Usually, it's something in the vein of an always or never kind of statement. Things like honesty is always the best policy. It's something that they could reasonably believe on the face of it is, makes it seem true. Their experience has probably taught them that it's true, but it doesn't actually work in practice because, let's be honest, honesty isn't always the best policy. Have you ever tried planning a surprise party where you're absolutely honest with everyone about what's happening, specifically the person you're trying to surprise? No, there's moments when a little bit of dishonesty is actually in people's best interest. And so you're taking something that your character rigidly believes and adheres to that they are in fact wrong about. And again, that doesn't have to be linked to a virtue like honesty. It can be something like all dragons are evil. All monarchs are corrupt. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's think of the truisms that we get in life that are kind of those little bite-sized nuggets, and have a character that has built a significant portion of their personality around that, knowing that they're wrong about that. Now, why do they need to be wrong? They need to be wrong because what makes a character interesting is growth and change. The problem with joke characters and bit characters isn't that they don't have funny bits. It isn't that they don't have entertaining lines. It's that they never change. They don't grow and evolve. And so you want your character to stay fun as you're playing them. You want them to stay entertaining, and you don't want them to become a trope of the party. You want them to be something that you look forward to coming back to every time, and the other players at your table look forward to engaging with. And so they need to change. So by identifying something that they're wrong about, you come up with something that they can change about themselves over the course of an adventure. And you never run out of these things because they can always be wrong about something. Once they correct a misbelief about themselves, they can always find a new misbelief, something that they have misinterpreted in their history and now believe something else that is false, and correct that and grow and change again. And now you have a perpetually interesting character. And so the first step to creating an interesting backstory for your character is identifying a misbelief. So ask yourself, what is my character wrong about? What do they believe wholeheartedly to be true about life that they are fundamentally incorrect about? Once you identify that, write it down. I like to put it in the flaw section if I'm doing like a D&D character or something like that. Otherwise, I'll just kind of jot it down in the personality notes for whatever character I'm creating. I've been playing some Shadow Dark recently, and that is a little more free form in terms of character personality creation. And so I just kind of jot that down in the margins, that kind of deal. But you identify that misbelief as succinctly as you possibly can. And that's step one. Once you have that down, you are frankly almost halfway to creating your character backstory in a single sentence. Now, you can play your character interestingly enough without any more information than this, because now you have something to help guide their decisions. You have a belief that affects how they make choices in the world and the approach that they take to the adventure. But we can go a step deeper in that by creating a more fully rendered backstory to give them some kind of, well, position in the world, right? Because why is a backstory important at all? Well, it's important to your character because nobody exists in a vacuum. You are a product of your experiences. I am a product of my experiences. It affects how we interact with the world and how we make decisions in this world, and how we shape the people around us. And so it becomes really difficult to take a character that has no history whatsoever and just kind of plunk them down in a situation and know exactly how they're going to respond and how they're going to react. So, giving them context through a backstory makes them infinitely easier to play because you have information to pull from. You have, past history that they can rely on to guide their actions, to suggest courses of action to them, and to be wrong or right about, or experience to pull on. So creating that backstory gives you so much more to role play with. It gives you a lot of information to work with, making it much easier to build this character in real time while you're playing your campaign. The trouble is that backstories can be really nebulous if you kind of try to take them as a whole structure, because creating somebody's entire life from nothing, that is a big undertaking, especially if you're creating somebody who's like an adult who has, a couple decades of experience under their belt. If you start with the backstory with the day they were born and then keep jotting down all the significant notes about them from that moment on, that's going to be a tome. And one, it may give you a very comprehensive view, but two, it's going to be hard to remember all of it. And three, it's going to be almost impossible for your DM to sift through all of that without taking a serious amount of time to do it. And frankly, they're not going to remember all the odds and all the ins and outs and all the oddities and details of it. So having that sort of whole cloth approach almost becomes just as paralyzing as having nothing at all, because now you've got too much to draw from. And something I've said before, and I will say again on this channel, probably way more times than you ever want to hear, is that infinite choice is the same as having no choice at all. So instead, picking a sliver of relevant events, specifically the events attached to their misbelief, gives you just enough information to create a compelling history, but not so much that you can't pull from it. Um, and giving you not so much you can't pull from it, and giving you things to play with as you are creating your character in real time. Um, And let's see here. So we've got a couple comments in the chat here. We've got Jonathan. Hey, RJ, your method seems to need a fair amount of lore ahead of time to make these decisions. I'm a less is more person, allowing the emerging game to fill the details of the backstory and the character's story going forward. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Um, I will say that this actually method needs less lore than you might think. And I'm going to talk about that in a second here, because I'm not talking about that you need to know the history of the world that you're in, but we're going to talk about how you just need to know the history of why they believe the thing that is wrong. What is it that they believe? Why they, how they came to their misbelief, and how history taught them that that is correct when in fact it's not. But that being said, there's no one right way to make your backstory, and I certainly don't mean to imply that there is. There are all kinds of ways to kind of do this emergently. But if you find yourself stuck, you've got a blank sheet of paper, which can be paralyzing for a lot of folks. If you just aren't quite sure what to do, if you come up with this misbelief, you're ahead of the game. And how you build the backstory from that misbelief is really simple. You figure out why they believe that, right? So if their misbelief is that all dragons are evil, right? Maybe we come up with something simple like that. Something that is, you know, perhaps, inaccurate in this world because we have metallic dragons, perhaps that are good aligned for the most part, that kind of thing. Well, you just need to come up with what in your character's past led them to believe this, right? So, what interactions have they had to make them believe that all dragons are evil? Did a dragon destroy their village? What have you? You don't necessarily have to know the context of the rest of the world. You just have to know what specific interactions they've had that led them to believe that this misbelief is actually true. What experiences have they misinterpreted to create this gross generalization about themselves and about the world that they now apply to everything? And it gives you just enough backstory that now you have something to kind of pin your character to, and you don't have so much that you can't let your character grow and emerge and develop these things as you continue to play. Because there is a lot of value to that less is more philosophy. Absolutely there is. But having nothing at all to work with can be a really difficult place to start. So giving yourself just that little bit of help, identifying a misbelief, and then step two, coming up with what in their past led them to be convinced that this misbelief is true, gives you just enough lore about your character and gives you just enough motivation that now you can start guiding their actions outside of just sort of a blanket, generalized, neutral kind of build, and making them feel like a specific person who has real opinions about their situation and the world that they're in. So that's my whole process for creating backstories fast. Create a misbelief and develop a little bit of history to explain that misbelief. And that's really all there is to it. So if you have any more questions, I'd love to hear them, but this is kind of the extent of what I'm talking about for these little quick TTRPG talk sessions. We're just 15, 20, 30 minutes of chat on a topic to just kind of explore that and see where the conversation takes us. So give it a few minutes if there's any other questions that can toss in the chat, because I know we're on a little bit of a delay. But in the meantime, if you enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. All that kind of stuff really helps this channel grow and encourages me to do more of this kind of thing. So if you're enjoying this, I'd love to hear from you. Likewise, if you like my content and you want to see how I actually run games, come play with me. You can check out my content at startplaying.games/GM/rjcurrer and join one of my campaigns. I currently have got 4 campaigns up there available at the moment. I'm adding more throughout the next few weeks here, including some one-shots. So if you want to jump into some of those could be a really good time too. All right. Well, seeing nothing else in the chat, I guess we're just going to go ahead and wrap up here for the evening. So thank you so much for joining for me for my coffee break this evening. And I look forward to seeing you again on Monday and then on Wednesday. Talk to you then. Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan. Thanks for joining us.